Hi, good evening, everybody. Very good to be here and a very interesting topic that we have in front of us to discuss. Empowering digital transformation with intelligent automation. I think this topic itself conveys a lot of insights into what really is the issues today, and especially in the banking and financial services sector, which is going through a course of disruption, which marks the emergence of the banking sector's new gene, a mix of advances in business models, agile execution, and intelligent automation. I would say it's a huge transformation that is going on in the industry. And I know the volume of data is huge. There are a lot of integrated automated workflows, the processes becoming increasingly necessary in order to analyze and derive value from that. So the issue here is that if the BFSI industry has to drive efficiency and scale up, it is imperative that they employ the use of intelligent automation. And the understanding of intelligent automation, we will come to that, and we will also take each other's views on this. This, of course, uncovers new opportunities for a large scale transformation and acts as a value driver for more ROI and impact. So, before we start, I would like to welcome all the panelists. We have Deepu. Deepu KV is the president with Bajaj Alliance General Insurance. Deepu spearheads digital transformation and innovation, leveraging startups from fintech, insurtech globally. He's been in the insurance industry for over 25 years, of which he has spent over 19 years in GE Capital. Prasanna, hi Prasanna. Prasanna Lohar, Vice President Technology, Digital Innovation and Architecture with DCB Bank. He has over 20 years of experience as a technologist and innovator and has worked with organizations including Mastech, Worldline Global, and Mary Technomont. Madhusudan Warrior, CIO and Director IT of NIIF Infrastructure Finance, has over 26 years of extensive experience in IT infrastructure, project management, IT operations, and financial services. He has worked with organizations like IDFC, 3i Infotech, Tata Asset Management, and Unit Trust of India. A. Shuju Rathor, Head of IT with SBI Mutual Fund. He's a tech leader with vast experience in business and digital transformation through innovation and thought leadership. He has worked in many BFSI organizations such as Peer Ratings, TransUnion, Civil, IIFL Finance, and Fullerton India Credit Company. Dominic Vijaykumar, Vice President and CTO, ART Housing Finance. He's a technology specialist with expertise in designing, implementing, and supporting IT services, operations, and infrastructures with over 21 years of experience. He has worked across companies like RAAS, Affordable Housing Finance, Kingfisher Airlines, Air Deccan, and the Oberoi Group. Malcolm Ong, IBM Automation Sales Leader for IBM Asia Pacific. He leads and drives the adoption and growth of RPA and process mining for IBM across Asia Pacific. With over 15 years of experience across automation, cloud, storage, telecom, he has worked with companies like Automation Anywhere, Veritas Technologies, Salesforce, BlackBerry, Sony, and Yotta Technologies. Welcome once again to everybody. Let's start with the discussion. And I think I would first of all be a little more generic. I think you're all living through the COVID times, and we cannot ignore the huge change in our environment which this has brought in. So as a first step, I want each one of you very briefly to just describe how you've handled the situation. And of course, talking about myself as an introduction, I've been in a CIO role for 24 years. The last one was 12 years with Ernst & Young India. And before that, I was with Hughes Software Systems, which became Aricent. I was the CIO for HCL Infosystems and In the financial services sector, I have worked in the Delhi Stock Exchange. The online trading system in 95, that was the third online trading system to be set up in India. I was the general manager information systems in Delhi Stock Exchange at that time. And I had just taken premature retirement from the Indian Navy as a commander. So I'd finished 20 years of my service in the Navy at that time. So therefore, uh, coming back to the current times, I would like maybe we can start with Deepu. Why don't you give us a little brief idea about how this has changed, not only how you manage your internal IT operations at the back end, how you manage the employees working from home or outside office, how do you interface with customers, all of these aspects.
From an employee perspective, Rajiv, we basically converted, adversity into opportunity, because while they were socially and physically distanced, we had to keep them, digitally and emotionally connected. So we basically pivoted from pure employee engagement to family engagement, because now they are working from home. And by doing that, we were able to significantly notch up our, employee engagement scores. So that's how, we managed, people when they were not in the office during the pandemic. Now, coming to customers, Rajiv, we had obviously not predicted COVID-19, but we had embarked on a digital transformation journey much in advance. So COVID for us, like one of my friends put it colorfully, was a global unplanned UAT, which we passed with flying colors. We were able to, raise our digital servicing to 80%. And at that time, we even saw a grievance drip by 90%. And, that sustains even to this day. So in a nutshell, like you said, I'm going to keep it very brief. On both the customer and the partner front, as in our and our employee front, we did not just survive, but we actually thrived through the entire crisis.
It's really good to hear this, because sitting outside as a retired person, I really feel that you guys have done an excellent job.
Thank
Prasanna,
you.
would you like to also give us your inputs?
Yeah, I think the way it's being announced, right? Lockdown way back in 2020 March. I think initial few hours or initial few days were so challenging just to think how do we really come out of this constraint, right? Working from home, customers will not visit branches, employees will have to be given with the laptops or some kind of devices to operate from. Never know like how many ports will have to open from data center to the employees' actual devices. I think initial 3 to 4 months was very exciting journey, seeing that we are collaborating very heavily. Business and IT teams are really collaborating, and the kind of output which we have seen in the initial 6 7 months, it was awesome and tremendous, and that has given a momentum for a next level of organization. So will we be operating from work from home or a hybrid model, or again back to the offices? I think after this 18 20 months, when I look back, right, I think necessity is always mother of how do we really adapt, right? I think it was a necessity, so there was no way out, right? We will not do any banking, we'll sit at home, let's see what happens to our customers. Rather, as Deepu has said, right, it was an opportunity to bring on a lot of digital transformation for customers. It was rather transformation. Whatever strategy we were running on that moment, it has reformed, right? Reformed in the sense, the way we had people, or we had a lot of people during that time. Cybersecurity was another challenge, although we come up with a lot of new things on cybersecurity side. New business models we have come up, there were new things we launched during that initial 6 7 8 months. What pandemic has taught us that certainly if you have certain time, right, we can really pull and really make it happen. I think this is what we have seen many organizations now. When they look at last so many months, they have a different kind of energy now, right? I think challenge is now we have reached to this orbit. After doing so much of thing, how do we go to the next orbit, right? I think many companies will be in mid of things, right? While because now slowly pandemic will get over, how do we engage our employees back, right? So that's another challenge we will see. How do we really pull back those employees back into the office, or whether to keep it hybrid model? I think these are initial thoughts we'll be having with a lot of CXOs after so many months. But I think that is a that time certainly every CXO will remember for his whole life. This is how we have done a digital transformation during those 12 months or 16 months. Yeah.
Great. What about you, Madhu? Would you like to?
Yeah. So from our end, primarily, as far as change was concerned, we already had the required setup for our organization. All our data center was on cloud. Majority of our applications were on cloud. Collaboration tools were there, and plus we also used to do the work from home routines previously also. So the setup, everything was ready. It's just that people had to be trained how to connect, use the secure connect mechanism and connect to the data center and access the critical applications. So initially, trying to use the collaboration video platforms, that was something which we had to impart that knowledge. But within a few days, everybody picked up, and as such, we didn't have any challenge. Internet fluctuations was a challenge, but other than that, as far as quickly adapting to the new environment, for us it was much more flexible because the architecture which we had designed, it was very flexible. And our focus was continuously on the information and cyber security. What we were probably 18 months back, we are far better than that. So we have taken some initiatives on the data leak prevention, data loss prevention. We have redefined the rules, what is required from the multiple sources, whether it is from the mobile or from any device that I access, and the mechanism to access our data center, including the vendors and the employees who support us. We brought in much more stronger processes in place.
That's good. So I think you covered data security, which is, I think, one of the worrying factors. And with all the regulatory compliances which your industry has to go through, I think that's really a very, very critical element in how you're working. So at this time, maybe Malcolm, would you like to jump in with what has been your experience? Would you like to add any value here to what you've heard so far?
Definitely. So I would put it this way: is that during the COVID period, the pandemic period, right? It actually accelerated the digital transformations, right? It actually pushed the digital transformation much more further and much more needed. Why do I say that? Because as we are all locked down, employees are no longer able to go back to the workforce office to perform their job, right? But that doesn't mean that the worker is able to access some sensitive application from home, because due to what you say about the cybersecurity issues, right? The compliance. And that is where the company, in some financial company, like in the bank, they would think about, if I was doing in the bank loan application, right? How can we actually, meet the high surge of requests of loan during the pandemic while our workforce are still working back home? So they actually has a digital workforce in place in their environment, right? Digital workforce can be like RPA, robotic process automation software bot. They actually can perform back in the backend system 24 hours 7 to support their customer, right? Another thing here is that IT department. Since everybody's are working from home, right? We had this huge demands of IT issues that definitely pop up. So the workload from the IT guys is always packed and overwhelmed by him. And one of the key things is about password reset. Sometimes the application doesn't work. We need to do password reset. And that is, where the times that the IT departments really feel the pain. I'm overwhelmed by all these requests. So if I can actually have some kind of automations tool that actually respond back to the request of my employee, instead of I, as a human, respond back to you. That is where we can see how IT departments can leverage automations tool to augment this part of the support. That's all for me.
Great, great. We'll come back to you. My question to Shiju from SBI Mutual Fund, would you like to explain and how this whole time has been for you and what has been your experience like?
Thank you. This is very good and a very interesting question, actually, because over the last 1.5 years, I think we have been answering the similar sort of questions in every panel. I think the scenario has changed after the March 2020, when really the pandemic hit us and we had to go back to home, start working remotely. So there were two folds of challenges were there. One definitely was technology. because most of the organizations who were ready in terms of adoption of the digital transformations, they were ready to go and start the work immediately after the lockdown was announced. Second, organizations which were not ready. In fact, they were in their journey towards the digital transformation. So they had to face a large problem because they had got stuck with the business processes, and they had to incur the losses also. Biggest challenge during this period was how do we connect back to our employees. So that was the biggest challenge. I think that everyone faced this because people started working remotely, and connecting to them, keeping them abreast about what's happening at the background, how the company is performing, how the pandemic is impacting the organization. So those are the questions which were running through in initial days at for every employee's mind. So connecting them, making more collaborative, making them abreast about how the business is performing, how the new normal has to be adopted, how everyone is looking after to the pandemic in terms of opportunity, not in terms of an impact. So that was the one thing which I think was a challenge initially, but over the period of time, the collaboration became more easy in terms of because of the solutions and the tools what we use day in day out basis. I think HR played a vital role out over here, connecting each employees together, because every employee, since they were working remotely, some of them got stuck without family as well, and those candidates were the biggest need at that point of time in terms of connecting them, because they had to be mentally kept more positive in terms of working, in terms of keeping their distances from their family. So I think that was the key period for us to make them more connected. So these were the key challenges. I think now it has become normal because people have started slowly and started adopting it. And I think people are more gung-ho to work either of home or work or both the places. I think that's how the new normal will become now. So people had to work more hours because pandemic also had made people to work more than office hours as well. So that was also one of the key change and the challenges what we have observed, because the discussions what you can have on 5 minutes on the fly on standing base, it used to take around 30 minutes or minimum 1 hour of the slots. So discussion used to keep going on. I think that's all will have to change and bring in more discipline. Otherwise, I think adoption was very quick.
And finally, last is Dominic. Would you like to also talk about your experience in the same field during this period?
Thanks a lot. Okay, just wanted to update. COVID, there were two COVID hits that we had. One is lockdown 1, lockdown 2. Lockdown 1 was unpredicted. We were never prepared for anything. And suddenly one day we get a call that everyone should work from home. Now, work from home is the biggest challenge because especially in the financial industry, we have limitations as per the regulatory compliance, security, and all that is concerned. But, thank God in the other way, we had kept, it's not because of COVID, we had kept a system. By default, we had kept certain, especially these laptops and all those things with VPN enabled. So the senior management starts working from when they are on the travel, they can use the VPN connectivity for connecting to the corporate network. That came as handy for us. So only challenge what we faced was, technically speaking, logistics was one issue. Secondly, the bandwidth was another issue what we faced during the first lockdown. But the second lockdown taught us a very good lesson. The first lockdown taught us a very good lesson that what all we had to be prepared. In second lockdown, we were all well prepared. We know what's going to happen. And touch wood, in case something goes wrong for the third wave, even then we are ready for it. So basically, we are geared up for any kind of eventuality going forward. Work from home is a new norm now. Everyone should start using it. Whether you work from office, work from home, end of the day, data security, your corporate connecting to your data center, that's very important. How you secure your thing. These are the few things. We had challenges, and that challenges have taught us how to overcome those same challenges.
Okay, so moving on, I think, one of the aspects which really all of us felt during this time was the need for automation. And I think that is something which really also, of course, it was always there, and IT departments all across the CIOs have been instrumental in improving the automations, getting in, a lot of automatic day-to-day routines implemented. But during this time, when we felt that people themselves are not able to do tasks, and with, especially I know during the second wave here in India, we had so many people falling sick altogether that it was not just that they're working from home, they were just not able to work. So the amount of dependence on automation has drastically increased, and the expectations are also that yes, we do need to automate all our day-to-day routine tasks as much as possible. It's not that we let go of people. It's never that, and I always feel that automation and artificial intelligence will never reduce employment. It will definitely add to employment in different skills and different skill sets that are required. So my question is, how exactly are your organizations leveraging emerging technologies like automation, RPA, especially RPA, artificial intelligence? And if you can give us some examples of specific experience that you had in your organization. So let me start with Madhu this time. Madhu, would you like to explain, any on the ground, real life examples?
Yes. Yeah. So for us, primarily, the focus was on information security. So as a process, what we did is we reviewed our data leak or data loss prevention process that we follow. And what we realized is there are a lot of logs that get created, and majority of them are false positives. So we got experts to read those particular logs, understand, and from the database, understand what these logs are interpreting and what are they trying to give us. And basis this, the logs, the intelligence, it allowed us to quickly classify which are the false positives and only focus on the ones which needed a much more deeper introspection. So this is something which we initiated, and it's a learning process, and that's an ongoing activity. But from where we were about 18 months back and where we are today, we are in a far better position, wherein the teams need not actually have to look at the 100% of the logs, but majority of them get filtered out, and we can focus only on the required logs. Other part is a lot of MIS that we get basically on the health of the servers, on the health of the systems, what is the utilization, where is my bandwidth, etc., getting consumed, etc. That was all coming in multiple forms of MIS. Some were coming in the form of Excel reports, some were downloadable from our private cloud, some used to come as automated reports to us directly in our mailbox. So what we did is we built a platform wherein first process was we understood what each MIS report or what each column is trying to tell us out of this. And once we understood the data, what can be done so that all the manual processes, so like if an engineer is sitting and comparing 4 or 5 reports and trying to do some analysis, we built intelligence over it so that the manual process or the repeated process that the engineer has to keep on doing, that got reduced. And using this intelligence, automatically we got the required information that we wanted. So this is briefly 2 instances what we did. Apart from this, there were some other instances also, like filtering out unnecessary bandwidth, network issues, etc. That was something which we initiated.
That's very interesting. Yes, I think it's important to decide what to automate and what not to automate. And I think that is, I would say that is the most intelligent part of what automation is. The first step of, determining really what benefits will you get, what is really what your focus areas should be. Prasanna, would you also have a similar experience, or did you have a different type of focus in your organization?
I think, see, every organization has its own orbit, right? Where they have reached. Say, example, I'm a challenger bank who will write on all my operations on digital first journey, looking at the customer. What is that customer experience I want to give, right? So now we are sitting on so many years of legacy processes, operations, right? So, and as we have to move further, we need to, as we are doing a lot of transformation on the front side, we need to see in the back office what are those processes we can really automate, right? I think earlier it was automation, right? So Excel automation, macro automation, and there are many more things. And with AI coming into picture or machine learning and so many algorithms, now people are now understanding the power of those programs, right? Which runs in the backend 24/7 without asking for leave or without asking that I will not work. So that is how we are also part of this journey. I think a couple of years back, we created a RPA COE, Center of Excellence, and we identified around 35 plus processes to be automated, and we have done that. I think now when we are sitting into pandemic and we look at those kind of scenarios that operations people may not come, right? But within that we had to provide those reports to the regulators. Within that we had to provide those settlement reconciliation. So we have taken up those priority tasks which we can really automate with a robotic process automation. While we are doing this journey, our service provider comes and asks, why are you only on RPA? We should do with some intelligent automation IA. So that's how we are also learning as an organization and taking our automation journey to the next level. Now, importantly, there are few areas in the data center as Madhuji was narrating, right? Customer experience is very, very important, right? So although they are operating on mobile apps or they are web apps, right? We need to know how is the experience for them, right? We need to immediately act upon that, like something goes down. So I think similar ways, we also working on AI ops kind of a thing, right? So wherein we identify or pull out those logs into all those multiple endpoints for that whole customer journey and map it on a dashboard. Key, okay, here is the red flag, right? Let's go and attack before customer says my app was not working because of this. Beforehand, we can. So this is in a journey. I'm not saying it's full-fledged implemented. We are taking it step by step, and certainly I will be happy to create that whole map in front of my top management. What is down, what is green, what is amber, and give out those notifications to the relevant business stakeholders. I think that kind of a level of automation we'll have to bring on because we are in that orbit. Suppose I am directly onto the new fintech, so I don't have these kind of a legacy challenges and problems. I will have different kind of different challenges. So wherein based upon current infrastructure, whatever systems we have built on managed data center, right? While we move slowly on the cloud, right? So it has its own gamut to really how do we take care of automation side. So in a nutshell, Rajiv, what we are doing, we are looking at our low-hanging processes where we can create those automated processes and revisit them again 3 to 4 months to see is there any another room to re-automate on the one side, and the other side any new requirement which is coming to us. We are not relying on any of the operational things. We first of all say, is there any operational things? Let's cut it off. It will be always a digital first journey from end to end, right? So for that, if you have to adopt blockchains or AI or machine learning or OCR, so adoption of emerging technologies is also an opportunity for us in this whole journey.
Right, that's good. And Deepu, you're from the insurance industry. I think that's a little different from pure banking and mutual funds. So I'm sure you would have some unique requirements and applications that you implemented.
Now, the first thing for us, Rajiv, what we're very clear about is it's not that you just latch on to the latest buzzword in town. You basically solve customer problems. So it starts with the customer, and then depending on the customer need, you fit the tool to the need. So clearly that was the approach. Now let me just share, a couple of examples. If you look at the claims process, that's the moment of truth in our industry. Mm-hmm. And let's take, the motor line of business, it's the largest one. If let's say you crashed your car earlier, you had to call up the insurance company, they would send an inspector, he would take his own time, and then the process would kick in. We revolutionized this by you leveraging AI and machine vision. So today what customers do up to certain amounts is just click photographs and upload them using the mobile app. The AI engine will assess the amount based on images and communicate to the customer in 20 minutes. The customer gives his consent and the money is transferred. So what took days earlier now happens in 20 minutes. So clearly a case of how we leveraged AI and machine vision. Similarly, if you look at customer servicing, like I mentioned to you, earlier we used to have contact centers or call centers serving, 80% of our customers. Today, that entire servicing, the ratio has got, completely reversed. So today, the bulk of the servicing is taken up by the mobile app, WhatsApp, our customer portal, and, our AI-driven chatbot. So clearly, again, we've been able to ensure that, we cater to customers, using a range of technologies. So based on customer needs, we have leveraged the right technology.
Great. Coming to Shiju, would you like to give us your experience and some examples in the mutual fund industry that you've implemented?
I think during the pandemic, lot of emphasis was given for automation because there were a lot of processes which used to be done in terms of person dependencies. And the challenge during this period of time was to for the connectivity. There was at times the challenges which were in terms of reachability of the employees because they used to work remote, they used to work with a very low bandwidth. So those were the biggest challenges, and I think that has made uh, thought to open about how do we bring in more automation in place. It doesn't mean that you get rid of the employees. It's more how do you make automation in terms of in-person dependent. So that's the one key things what we thought of. And I think the adoption of automation was surplus and the more during the last 1.5 organizations have moved towards it so that they can run the show even if the person is not reachable. They can run the show even the person is not able to connect back, and run the show with the faster output, go to market, as well as with the lesser error rates. So that was the key thing in order to bring in so that the productivity and the output can be more correct. So that was the one key thing I think was given emphasis for automation. Along with the automation journey, which was there for almost now a couple of years as well, over the though it has been picked up over the last 1.5 years, AI played a vital role because when you built in the solutions of the platforms along with the automations as well as with the AI, the lot of human intelligence which we can't think of, AI started working on to because more predictive in terms of specifically in terms of mutual fund industry, it's more predictive because today if you want to know how the sectors are behaving, so probably you need to have a predictive analytics, and I think AI is getting adopted more out over there because so it makes much more easier for any investment managers or fund managers to take a decision. So AI is getting adopted almost all the verticals of the BFSI, and I can see that's happening very aggressively in the mutual fund industries too.
Dominic, you're from the housing finance side of the financial services sector. So I'm sure there would be certain unique requirements of your customers and your industry, which you can highlight and explain to us.
Okay. The very important thing is COVID, the second wave. Many of our colleagues and near and dear ones are falling sick, and many were not able to do the work. So automation has played a major role. Okay, more than what was required. Automation has played a role. When you say automation, it is the not replacing a human being. It is a giving an additional tool to the user so that the work is get done, whether it is at home or in the hospital or wherever it is. So basically, that is in detail. I have to be very very clear that automation is not a replacement for anybody. Automation has got its own limitation. Human brains has got its own limitation. So we are clubbed together to get things going for it. So especially in our housing finance industry, what happened? Automation played a very very important role for us especially during the COVID time. Okay, that is in our industry we give secured loans. So secured loans, when we're giving a secured loans to an salaried or businessman or any kind of small kirana shop owner, we need to do a lot of personal discussions. So the personal discussions where during COVID time doing a personal discussion was technically not possible because nor my BCM can go, nor the customer will entertain us coming there. The only option for us available was to do a video-based PD. So that was the one though video-based PD was there in the system, but in the housing finance companies, especially the secured loan, the huge ticket size loan, it was not that popular as such. But post-COVID, this has the video-based PD has played a very, very major role. And even your KYC, video-based KYC, that has played a major role for us, especially when it comes to automation trust. And when you talk about the artificial intelligence we use for your MIS, we use a lot of delinquency reporting and automation, and even the RPA, when you talk about RPA, which is also a part of the automation, we use it for a bot process. Basically, the customer today doesn't want a person to go to his house, especially post-COVID. I'm very, very precisely telling on this. Customer always prefer to have an online chat, understand what it is, and customer runs the show. So for a customer to interact with a customer or to go to a customer, he has to come back to it. It's not necessary. So we brought in the RPA process there, where we brought in the bot started interacting with the customers, giving the issues, certain issues which was more related to the loan, the statement of accounts, and all that were helped out by using an RPA process. So basically, RPA, artificial intelligence, and your automation has played a very, very important role for a kind of industry where we are. And since we are an affordable segment, customers are very, very precise in certain things. So we have to get things moving, and technology has played a very important role. And it's not only the technology, even the customer at the other end has updated his technological skills. So this is what which has helped us in automation, RPA, and AI.
And coming back to Malcolm, why don't you talk to us about certain specific tools? You heard some examples from all the panelists, and these are in various industries, very specific to their requirements, to the customer problems that they're solving. All of these processes are different. So can you talk about certain specific tools or certain specific processes which can help and improve the process?
Let me walk you through two examples here. I think during the panelists like Prashana and Deepu has mentioned about insurance claim processes. Let's take an example, right? Because during this pandemic period, a lot of people are trying to get a lot of loans. Even in the bank industry we are working with, they are overwhelmed by this kind of huge requests. And those staff is actually works only one shift, 8 to 5. But what after 5 o'clock, there are still people who love to inquire about the loan applications or status. So what we actually works with the bank here is to implement an IBM RPA solutions, which is infused with AI technology. Why I say AI technologies over here? Because IBM RPA solutions infuse not just the task automations, it has the OCR capability built in, and it also have a native chat box. So put an example, today, after 5 o'clock, where there's nobody in the bank is able to serve the customer, the bank actually, implement a RPA chat box inquiry to the customer's requirement. So if today a customer say that, wow, I would love to understand what is my loan application status, right? Put in the request, and the bot is understand this and come out the option saying that, well, could you actually share with us your loan applications numbers and your name? Once you provide this information, the bot validates and go back to the system and check what is the status. It probably come back to you saying that, well, for Mr. Tan, you have one missing document for us to process. Could you kindly quickly upload these documents? Once the customer actually upload this document in a PDF format, which is the unstructured data, an IBM OCR capability is able to scan the copy, digitize this information, and put in the system and process to the next stage. So in this use case, you can see RPA is working together with OCR technology, together with the chat box, to service our customer, right? To put on the insurance claim process, right? We all know that in the claiming, the policy claiming process is a very complex workflow, right? It's not so straightforward. So IBM, we are in the Cloud Fact for Business Automations team. We have a certain of automations tool can actually work hand in hand to provide an end-to-end solution. First of all, imagine today a policyholder submit a claim, and this claim have been some scanned documents. We can leverage our data capture, copy this information, digitize it, put into the system, and go through another automation products called the workflow. And this workflow actually very detailed understanding what is the requirement, what is the rule, and orchestrate the whole flow. Once the claim have come out some information, RPA can come back into the flow, get this information, data transfer into another application. And that is where the end of the process. So in this part, you can see RPA is not just the end-to-end solutions, but you need to work together with the rest of the automation product to provide the end-to-end solution here. So that is the two examples I would like to share with you.
That's very interesting. Yes, I think, when I look at it, there are two things which come to my mind. That is, one is what has happened looking back and saying, 5 years back, well, we didn't have these tools and we could not have done some specific tasks or some specific processes. We could not have automated those. We're also looking forward another 5 years. We are all technology people. We are up to date with what's happening. And we then start imagining that, look, 5 years later, I will be able to achieve this. And that may be because of the improvement in processing powers. We find that a particular application is not meeting our time requirements, being very slow for us. Or it may also be that the technologies that are now being developed in terms of the software applications that are coming, maybe we'll be able to achieve much more. So I would like to split this into two, but I'll ask you to look back 5 years and look forward 5 years. And in both things, tell us, what do you think that you could not have done 5 years back? And what, in your imagination, you will be able to do 5 years later? So maybe we start with Deepu. Would you like to take this, put your imagination hat on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Rajiv, because you're talking about both hindsight and crystal ball gazing.
Yeah.
So let me start with the forward-looking perspective first. So Rajiv, one is the future is likely to be phygital, as in a combination of physical and digital. If you look at our industry, for instance, while the processing can be digital, but the fulfillment has got to be physical. If you are unwell, you have to go to the hospital, right? You can't get healed digitally. Similarly, if you crash your car, you have to take it to a workshop. So the fulfillment will be physical, but the processing will be digital, and that's why we said phygital. The other is, while the accent so far, as you saw in the various conversations, has been on digitizing the physical, but that is what COVID-19, brought about across industries. Now that, people have seen this, the consistency and efficiency of bots, especially when it comes to customers, there is also that born again need for empathy and a healing touch, because they don't call you during good times. They call you when they're in trouble. Right. So I think now the accent has shifted to humanizing the digital. How do you ensure that you get the best of both man and machine? So I think these are two trends, from a forward-looking perspective. Now, if I have to, wear my, thinking cap and think, how was it, different, 5 years ago? I think one is, Rajiv, adoption at scale, could have been possibly a challenge earlier. We may have had adoption, but maybe in some pockets. I think, the explosion in terms of, people's understanding of technology in the last 5 years, I think, has been phenomenal. The other is, we did discuss, cybersecurity earlier. I think the evolution of cybersecurity in the last 5 years, ensures that, we are able to operate this way. Otherwise, we could have possibly seen a massive, spike in incidents. So I'll pick, these two as areas, adoption at scale and cybersecurity as two reasons why we may have struggled, had it happened a few years back.
Right. So, Prasanna, would you also like to talk about, and I think, very interesting, yes, we are all aware of the way technology is changing, but at the same time, how do you see in your current role, how would that impact in the future and what you're able to do today, which you couldn't do in the past?
I think a very good question, rather. If we have had a pandemic kind of a situation in 2000 or 2005, right? We could have just lived with the situation the way it is that moment, right? We could have seen some other kind of a situation. Maybe I would have stayed within office for several months together, right? So coming back, I think technology since last 20 years has drastically changed with the adoption of internet. Since last 15 years with the adoption of smartphones like Android and iPhone, it has gone to the next level. And since last 5 to 6 years with the adoption of our data, right, which we have seen since data movement in 2016, followed by many more payment applications raised like UPIs or adoption of Aadhaar in last 6-7 years. I think it has given another kind of a momentum to the whole transformation journey. Without them, I think we could have had a different kind of ways to really do the customer onboarding, to customer understanding, right? I think, say example today, AI. With AI, I can do so many things. I can understand customers' behavior based upon their transaction data. I can do a lot of repetitive tasks, which is done manually with the help of RP or IA. We can automate. At a customer entering in a bank branch, I will be able to understand what's his mood, how his facial expressions, and certainly we can offer relevant services after understanding his data. with the help of relevant staff members, right? If you look at various adoption of new techs like WhatsApp banking, different digital channels, right? It's not only ATM, branch, internet, and mobile, but now it's going out of box, right? It's going everywhere with the open banking and API banking kind of a scenario. Customer can do my bank's transaction anywhere onto the non-banking platforms, right? I think without this open banking or cloud adoption or new techs, I think our model would have been a monolithic model, just to operate in silos and do a lot of operations. Today we have opportunity to go to the next level, right? In every area. If I divide your complete transformation into three, four areas, right? On the front, we have mobility, or tomorrow wearables or IoT devices, smart cars, or your smart houses will become your customers, right? And that's how we have to adopt how they will amalgam with my data center or the backend systems with open APIs. So in mid, we have APIs or kind of automation which is riding operational wave, right? We're taking our operations to the more of a automation wave. And the backend, right? Your systems are becoming more smarter with the AI, blockchain, more secure with the blockchain, and more big data adoption. We are understanding the data more and more. So I think with all these amalgamation as a platform, now we are ready for next level of customers, right? If we don't have any of those areas available with you, then I think we have to rework on that. So I think if you work on these three areas, certainly we are ready for future customers, right? Otherwise, we have to again look back and retransform. Pandemic has given that opportunity. How do you really scale fast or be agile or keep that speed and momentum for your ever-changing customer? Customers certainly have changed in the last 12 months. Right. The way we have seen adoption of customer without pandemic would have been 5 years. But now customer don't want to go to cinema halls. They want to be in front of Amazon Prime, Netflix. Similarly, they want banking services just around them, right? I think some of those technology like 5G or wearables or augmented reality will make a different kind of a form factors of a banking or any of those operations, right? Customer will become more and more autonomous. They will just plug and play those rules, and they will wait when those rules has to be given some consent, and immediately they will provide a consent which will be a secure consent, maybe on blockchain or intelligent AI systems. So the banking, which was like a unidirectional bank, I have to go to the channel, right? I have to go to the branch. I have to open my phone and do the transactions, right? Now it will give a bidirectional signals, nudges. This is what something for you. Would you like to? Yes, no, or just put a OTP. Transaction is done. So banking will be a unidirectional banking and omni-channel, or rather on a marketplace. Wherever I'm there, any platform I'm there, I'll be able to do perform my transactions. So may not be today, but down the line, 4 or 5 years, customers' vision, customers' aspiration will be on those lines. I think if you take some risk, innovate more. So in my current capacity and current my role, I'm happy to say that I'm primarily responsible current banking with a digital delivery on any of the channels, and responsible for innovations with the new techs, innovation, new business model with working closely with the startups, fintechs, that new energy, right? And while I do this new banking and the current banking, what is happening on the architecture, that's also another my role, right? Which takes care of the complete architecture, how I have to move from managed data center to cloud, or from monolithic standalone applications to on enterprise service based API friendly, API first applications. How your current core platform becomes core banking platform to digital core banking. So I think my current role gives all of these liberties so that I can move towards customer expectations, new business model expectations. But certainly, I think it's out of imagination, right? The way it has happened last 18 months, right? I think we have to keep that thought process always. Anything can come, anything will really is there in front of us. Leverage on technologies, leverage on business model, reskill our people, take care of security also and compliance aspects, and move as much as fast for the customer's interest.
So when I look back 5 years past, I'm a little bit proud to say that 5 years back we were the first housing finance company to bring in app-based customer acquisition. Okay, where there's feet on street guys used to carry a tablet with them. On that, there's an app, there's an art app installed where they can do, instead of carrying an application form, we built an app where customer used to be acquired, and even the CIBIL was to be validation was done at the customer's doorstep. And the process which was taken for 7 days, like normally what happens when a sales guy comes to your place, you may not have all the documents to be given, some package, whether it's applicant or co-applicant, all those things. So what it did, just to overcome this, we brought in an app where everything is available at the doorstep with the customer. We uploaded it. It was a real-time access which used to happen. So 5 years back we did, and the TAT was reduced from 7 days to, you can say it's almost a 1 day time. So it's almost 6 days we are reduced the TAT. And it was very successful, and this we've been following. The only challenge 5 years back, what we couldn't implement was we couldn't do an apply online. Basically, we wanted to have a model which is not assisted by the finance companies, where customer can go onto the website, apply a housing loan, end to end, it gets right up to the disbursement number, which was technically not feasible. One is because of the regulatory requirement, technology limitations, and there are certain other features which were stopping it. This is what 5 years back what we were thinking. But now, after 5 years, the next future should be whether it is an affordable segment customer or it's a premium segment customer. He should be in a position of applying. He can choose the property, finalize the property, and get in touch with directly apply through the banks on an online process where his loan is completely approved, dispersed, and with the subject to the documentation, verification, and all those things. So these are what we are looking, and we would like to have more of AI and ML going to play a major role with this, because when one is disbursement of loan, then the customer is going to stay with you for 10 years, 10 to 15 years, sometimes even to 20 years. Then during that time, the delinquency, how are you going to measure his delinquency? What is his collection? Basically, your collection process comes into picture. There where you are in ML, because you will have chunk amount of data coming in, different amount of data, customers' behavior, social media behaviors. So all this clubs into picture, and so that you can always predict the customer's behavior for next 5 years, 10 years, depending on the kind of size of the amount what we are dispersed to the customer. So AI, ML, this is one word. Then RPA plays a very important role. Second thing is your automation. Every step should be automated without replacing the employee. It is an additional tool given to an employee to improve his skills as well as improve the TAT and the performance and accuracy level, the error-free environment. Rather than taking 10 days for an activity to complete, you can always do it in 2 days, 3 days time. And this gives a customer-centric, customer is very happy, and you get, this is the other way of improving your marketing strategy, getting better customers, and a customer-centric approach. So technology is going to drive the complete finance, and especially the housing finance company. It's going to be the more of a digital process which has to be followed.
It's a very toughest question as well, because next future 5 years, I think it's too ambiguous, because today I don't know next how the 5 years is going to be in terms of technology. So definitely I can give you the example for the last 5 years, because the last 5 years the adoption for the transformation has been went well, and this was the result during the pandemic what we have seen. So imagine if the pandemic has occurred 5 years back, and where would have been we? Today we are interacting more in Zoom, we are interacting more in terms of Teams. Imagine 5 years back, we never had these platforms. We used to meet up in person. So if 5 years back, if this sort of pandemic had hit us, we may all had been sitting at home without doing anything. Maybe writing papers, letters on the papers and sending to or attaching on the emails or sending the emails. So I think that was the only communication which was there out of office at that point of time. So 5 years journey, last 5 years journey was really a preparedness what we were doing it, and this was our exam. So 2020 March our exam started, and we are still in exam. So this is proving how strength we have built for us in last 5 years, and this also set up a platform for us, a stage for us for next 5 years what we need to do in case of such pandemic hit us in future as well. So probably we may have to be better ready. Today, we could not move out some of the people away from office because we had some or other dependency. So they were lean staff who were operating out of the office in order to run the data centers, in order to run the ISP, in order to run the telecom. How do we make it more remotely? I think that's the next 5 years will be. And how do we make more automations? That will be the next 5 years will be. So that in case of such pandemic, when we talk about lockdown, every person should be there in the lockdown, irrespective of only the, I think, excuse will be for the health workers, because that's the only the excuse which will be there. Otherwise, technology, everything should be more automated. So next 5 years will be focused and emphasized more in terms of automations, making more and more readiness and geared up with the people in terms of working remotely. So that's a practice which you'll have to keep doing for next 5 years.
I think let's talk about in the past 5 years, right? So a lot of automations has been done for the past 5 years, but RPA is not something new. It has been in the markets for a very long time. But for the past 3 or 5 years, the technologies has been improved a lot, whereby infused with AI and machine learning capability with the OCR and the chatbox. So that is the parts that actually bring RPA into the next level. So according to the research, right, automations with AI will deliver about 134 billion in labor value in 2022, right? At the same time, almost like 90% of the CIO, which organization are able to scale intelligent automation, telling us it generate higher value, right? Another research showing that 84% of the executives say they will not achieve their growth objective without AI. So that is how important AI technology in the automation space right now. So our in the next 5 years, right? Because RPA is just mimic the human actions doing the job, but how can we leverage automations to really behave like a humans, right? And within the IBM, our CP for BA team here, we have a couple of our products that actually align to produce end-to-end solution. First of all, think about as a human, right? As a human, your left brain is always the one to make decision and is follow the rule base. And we have a solution called decisions management, which enables for you to set all the rules. So then the automations will follow your decision, your rule base to make the correct decision. Now, the next thing as a humans, we absorb a lot of information. And where does this information going to save in the human is on the brain itself. But in the automation space, we have a tool called the content management. We're able to keep all this information in a very proper manner. And anytime you want to call it out, you can put it on the keyword. It can quickly pull this information right in front of you. That is the content management. The next level is the humans. We have the eyes. We look at the data perfectly fine. But if you're looking at something like invoices, which is the PDF format, which is not digitized, and you can leverage our data capture solution, work as an OCR to identify all the key value that you like to extract, digitize it, and put into the certain format, whether in Excel or CSV bar, and produce and proceed to the next step, right? Now, talk about the second thing is workflow. Workflow is more like our human central nerve system. How can we coordinate and orchestrate all this movement from the beginning of the source data all the way towards the end to produce the result? And lastly, you have the RPA, which acts like a hand to do all these actions that you copy from one system to another system, input, make some judgment. So with all this component, decision, content, data capture, workflow, RPA, IBM is able to help organizations to achieve an end-to-end solution, or you call it as an intelligent automation, or maybe like Gartner, they call it as a hyper automation. And all this will not be done, okay, in the past, because in the past, when you talk about automations, people will say that, wow, it's going to be a hard coding. I need to have some developer with the programming knowledge. But right now, within all our products over here, it actually is a low code or no code environment. All you need to do is to drag certain commands from the command library, put it into the panel, and automate the bot script from there. So that is where how IBM solutions can provide an end-to-end to the customer to automate their processes. I hope that will give you a better picture.
Yeah, thank you. And finally, Madhu, what about you? You know, as your concluding remarks on what you heard so far, and also about what you feel will happen in the future in your industry.
Yeah, so over the past 5 years, probably if we say that we want to implement something on the cloud, it would have been more challenging, and it would have gone into multiple rounds of discussions. And second example that I would like to give is on the cyber security. Focus was there on cyber security, but it was not considered as part of the business risk. So now when I look at it 5 years down the line, cloud, yes, but everything will be looked at as a service rather than doing some capital expenditure. The business will look at it as getting everything as a service. Even the applications, the core applications which we have, that will also be looked at a service. Cyber security, information security, the way I see it is organizations will look at it as cyber resiliency. We all know cyber risks are always there, but try to be resilient. If something happens, how quickly can we enable the business operations? And of course, lastly, instead of going by the traditional laptops, desktops, have everything on the mobile device or whichever compatible device through which the user can or the business teams can do their operations. So this is the way I see things going ahead, along with, of course, all the other technologies that Prasanna and Deepu have said, like blockchain, etc. So depending upon each business and their inherent nature of business, that is what the focus will be for the entire organization. And IT as a strategy, we will have to support the business strategy.
Right. I think this last comment of yours is very, very relevant. IT does support the business strategy, but I also feel that IT now has become a part of business strategy. It's not just supporting,
Yes.
you know. So in the past, we used to always say that the CIO and the IT strategy supports and complements the business strategy. But today, what I see is that there's no business strategy without IT, right? So it's just like shutting down your business if you don't have. So I think there I find that you all have moved into a position where yes, from a technology perspective, you're getting a lot of support from big technology players, but from a business perspective, you're very much part of the decision making, business planning, and business strategy formulation team now. So it was really good talking to all of you. It's been a very interesting and learning opportunity for me. As I was saying, the last time I worked directly in the financial services sector was in 1995 to 1997. So you can imagine how old the technology was at that time. Very good. My congratulations to all of you for doing an excellent job. Thank you very much.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.